Hey guys, what is up? Chris here with Cohesive Friendship Unit. Just me today. We finally have all that we need to come to a verdict. Should you buy Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, PlayStation 5, or PlayStation 5 all digital? We now have just about everything we need. I would say sans an actual 100% concrete launch lineup, but we do have a pretty good idea of how these boxes are going to be shaping out in early to mid-November. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Everything you need to know. What should you buy? Well, we're about to get into all that. Before we do, please consider subscribing. We are so close to 3K subscribers, and we would really appreciate your support. And to show that we're appreciating your support, we're doing a giveaway for Cyberpunk 2077 on your platform of choice. You can check out our community tab for more information on that. And, of course, day one, we will be having a PlayStation 5 review. So, now let's talk about price and performance. If on November 10th you happen to have $300 burning a hole in your pocket, you could be the proud owner of an Xbox Series S. If you have $200 more, you could pick up an Xbox Series X. If you have the patience to wait 2 more days before jumping feet first into the next generation of consoles, you could spend $400 on November 12th for a PlayStation 5 Digital Edition and $500 for a PlayStation 5. Now, to review the specs of each device, there's a lot to talk about, so bear with me. First of all consoles and all SKUs are using AMD Zen 2 CPUs. They are all 8 cores, and they are all using RDNA 2 GPUs. From there, I'm going to pick apart the differences in that. And just to note, the CPU clock speed is going to be relatively even across all platforms, including the Xbox Series S. And that's because you really need to have your CPU not be a limiting factor. You want the GPU to be the limiting factor from scaling to resolution, but in order to deliver next-gen experiences, you want to have a consistent CPU performance across your platform. So starting with the CPU, we have 3.6 gigahertz on the Xbox Series S, we have 3.5 gigahertz on the PlayStation 5 models, and we have 3.7 to 3.8 gigahertz on the Xbox Series X. So very consistent performance across the board. Really only a couple hundred megahertz is separating the two, and that kind of makes sense. But moving on to the GPU performance, the lowest performer by a considerable margin is the 20 compute unit 1.5 gigahertz Xbox Series S, and that is going to give you about 4 teraflops of performance. And with the PS5, you're getting a 36 compute unit, 2.23 gigahertz GPU, giving you about 10.2 teraflops of performance. And for the Xbox Series X, you're getting a 52 compute unit GPU at 1.8 gigahertz, giving you about 12 teraflops of performance. So definitely Xbox Series X is by a considerable margin the most powerful console. And actually, the difference in power is somewhat similar to the PS4 Pro versus the Xbox One X in the current generation that we are in. Now, something to note is the Xbox Series S is targeting 1440p performance, so it doesn't need as much horsepower, whereas both PlayStation 5 SKUs as well as the Xbox Series X SKU is targeting 4K resolution, something to keep in mind. And part of targeting that 1440p using the shared RAM pool, the Xbox Series S only needs 10 gigs, whereas all other models are packing 16 gigs of RAM. Last thing to talk about is the SSD. Series S has 500 gigabytes of storage, which is really paltry considering the size of games these days and the fact that there is, in fact, no disk drive. PlayStation 5, both models are going to be rocking an 825 gigabyte SSD, with the all-digital one obviously not having a disk drive. And the Series X is going to be the largest capacity device at launch with a 1 terabyte drive, as well as a disk drive. So Series X is by far the most powerful console, and not only is it the most powerful console, but it has the most storage, and it also comes out 2 days earlier than the PlayStation 5. But now I think we should talk about games. And something to discuss with games is the exclusives. I'm specifically going to be targeting exclusives that are on day one only going to be on that console. So if a game is coming out on day one and it will also be coming out on another platform later, I'm going to consider that, an exclusive, because it's the only place you can get the game on that launch day. And for PlayStation 5, really the only true exclusive you're going to be getting on day one, besides Astro's Playroom, which is bundled with your system, is Demon's Souls. And I say that because Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales is coming out on the PlayStation 4, as is Sackboy: A Big Adventure, also coming out on the PlayStation 4. So really, Astro's Playroom seems kind of like a pack-in title, not really a system seller, but who knows, maybe it's the next Wii Sports. And Demon's Souls is really the exclusive on day one that you're going to be gunning for if you don't have a PlayStation 4. Microsoft, on the other hand, was supposed to have Halo Infinite. Unfortunately, that is not the case. That is now delayed into 2021, but that was also coming out on Xbox One anyway. Regardless, they really are leaning on being the best way to play what is already out there. There's going to be a huge catalog of games coming out on the Xbox platform, just by virtue of the fact of Game Pass existing. You could have hundreds of titles if you're signed up for Game Pass ready to play on day one. The caveat being you also have those literally right now on your Xbox One X or Xbox One. And they are also leaning heavily on their backwards compatibility features, of which Microsoft is going all the way back to their original Xbox platform. PlayStation is going to be 99% compatible with PS4 games, apparently. Still yet to see any real list or anything like that. And Microsoft is leaning on services like Smart Delivery to bring you games that you already own, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, for example. If you bought that on your Xbox One, for free you can upgrade it to the Xbox Series X version of the game, which is great. So Microsoft is leaning on not really having anything exclusive on day one, however, being the best way to play all of the content that you already have. And I always say that Game Pass is Xbox's exclusive going forward. And this brings us into the verdict. Surface level, obviously, there's a huge skew of prices to look at. You could go $300, $400, or $500, and that is honestly the widest spread of these two launching consoles ever. Last generation PS4 was your only option at $400, and Xbox One was your only option at $500. And this is actually, I think this is a good way to approach the next generation, especially since not all people are wanting or willing to move to 4K yet. Well, these are the high-end systems are targeting 4K. A lot of people are still on 1080p. A lot of people use a monitor, don't have a 4K monitor. I think in that regard, the Series S is actually a really good idea, and I do like that. However, whatever you can afford, I think, is the obvious answer for what you should get day one, the intersection of what you can afford and what you want. But for more targeted advice, I would say if you have an Xbox One X and you want to stay in the Xbox ecosystem, do not go for Xbox Series S. For now, there's no real reason to upgrade. There's no exclusives coming out on day one. Halo Infinite is still supposed to come out on Xbox One, and you could upgrade to a Series X because there would be a definite performance upgrade, but the actual power of the Xbox Series S is they're very close to each other, the Xbox Series S and the Xbox One X. So while we're in this transitional period between generations. It's important to look at what you got, right? You can play Cyberpunk 2077 on your Xbox One X, and it's probably going to be a very comparable experience, minus load times, to what you could get on the Series S. So if you don't have the money to upgrade to the X and you want to stay in the Xbox ecosystem, I would recommend holding on to your Xbox One X. I do think the PS5 is the best day one choice. Whether you want the disc drive or not really depends on if you don't own a 4K drive already and do watch disc movies, and if you have physical PS5 games that you would want to consider for backwards compatibility, or if you're like me and you're a physical junkie. I do think $100 increase for a disc drive is ridiculous and it sucks, but it's up to you if you want to make that choice. PS5 has a lot of exclusives on day one. I'm particularly excited for Demon's Souls. They have a story track record, and some of that intellectual property from the PS4 is already starting to show itself for the PS5, like Ragnarok for God of War and Horizon Forbidden West. And solid specs. Now, it is not as powerful as the Xbox Series X, but I think we're going to see a similar situation from last gen, where the Xbox One X was more powerful than the PS4 Pro, and in fact did often perform better in third-party games. But when it came to first-party titles, Sony pulled ahead, if only because they were so focused on their platform, where Microsoft had to develop for PC as well as their Xbox SKUs. So justifying an Xbox Series X is tough. I think if you want to play third-party games with the best performance on console, and you're specifically thinking third-party, I would lean towards the Xbox Series X. But all exclusives are coming to PC, so even if you don't want to go through the hassle of building your own, if you're willing to do a pre-built PC, you could probably get away with getting a PC and not going the Xbox route. And the other alternative is, if you occasionally want to play an exclusive, you can always sign up for xCloud or Game Pass to play a game you want when it comes out. If you want to play Halo Infinite and you're not really competitive about it, you just want to check out the campaign, you could always get xCloud and play it on your phone if you're willing to put up with that performance. You could also, if you have a decent PC, but it's not like your main machine, you could always just get Game Pass for a month and try Halo Infinite on your laptop or something while you chill with your PS5. I think it's no surprise at this point to say that I have pre-ordered a PS5, but I also have a PC, and I think that is a happy space for me currently. But what do you guys think about the next generation? Let me know down below, and for now, that is all, and I will catch you next time.